Alright, I know many of you have been waiting for this video. Today we're going to talk about ProPresenter 7 and the ATEM Mini switchers and how to use them together to live stream. In our previous video, we covered a little bit about the features of the ATEM Mini, and I have one of those in front of me, and today we're going to talk about just setting that up and going into ProPresenter. So let's look at the back of that. We've got the power cable here, and then I got USB-C, and that's what's going to bring our video from the output of the ATEM Mini into our computer for ProPresenter 7. And then I have an HDMI out that I'm using for the multi-view that I have in front of me on my computer desk. I've got 4 video inputs I could be using to switch between, so if you had multiple cameras, you can switch between them by plugging them all in there. And then I have one input that I'm actually using myself, and that's the camera that you're watching me on. That HDMI input also is bringing audio in from the camera because I have a microphone on top of the camera that brings audio into the ATEM Mini. You can actually bring audio into ProPresenter with an audio interface, your system audio, with your video input. Today, I'm going to show you how to use the ATEM Mini to bring audio in since we're talking about the ATEM Mini. First, we need to set up the actual software for the ATEM Mini so that your computer can see it and bring its signal into the programs you're using. So let's go to blackmagicdesign.com/support. And then in the search by model section, we'll go ahead and type in ATEM Mini, and I have the Pro, so I'll click on that. All right, so what you're gonna need to do is make sure you have the most recent switcher update installed. That's what's gonna give you your desktop software that you need to run the program, run the hardware, and then as well as it'll give you any firmware updates that you may need inside your hardware as well. So go ahead and download that, install it, and then we'll get that opened. I search for ATEM, it's called the ATEM Software Control. While it's opening, one thing to note is if the switcher does not show up in here automatically, you may need to make sure that the firmware is updated first in order for the switcher control software to see it. So to do that, you'll want to make sure you go to the Blackmagic ATEM Setup software, and then you can install the firmware there, and then come back to the software control and make sure it's set up. So in ATEM Software Control, we're not actually going to do anything today because as long as the ATEM Mini is showing up in there and it can see it, and as long as you have that installed, your ATEM Mini can then be seen by other programs like ProPresenter or Zoom or Skype or OBS to be seen as a video input. All right, so we have that installed, it's working, it's showing up. The next thing we're gonna do is go to ProPresenter. So we're at the cool part now, all right? We're gonna go ahead and set up our video and our audio inputs, and then we're gonna make sure that they're working, that you can see them in our screens, and then you can live stream from there. So let's start by going to ProPresenter up in the top left. We'll click Preferences, and then we're gonna start with Audio. So in Audio, by default, ProPresenter comes with 2 channels. You can choose the amount of channels that you wanna use there. I'm gonna recommend for this setup that we go with 4 for this example. And the reason being, your 2 channels would be your left and your right. So if you're sending left and a right to your in-person audience, well, you're still gonna need left and right for your online audience, but you may not wanna send the same exact thing to both audiences. Sometimes you may wanna mute one or the other, or sometimes you may wanna change the volume of one, like the volume going to your live stream versus the volume going to your in-person audience for a video. Another great example of that is if you have copyright content that you have a license for it for in-person, but you can't show it online. Well, you can turn off the audio for it online if you have the routing set up here. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna change this to 4. All right, nothing more we have to do in the audio output section, so let's go to the input. We're gonna go ahead and create a video input and choose my device, Blackmagic Design, 1080p 60. So ProPresenter automatically detected the signal there. Awesome, there I am, hello. All right, and then you have the option to use audio from your video input, but the reason we're not gonna do that is because if you had multiple video inputs and you wanted to make sure you were just using one audio source for all of them, you might as well just use an audio input instead of linking that audio source on each of your videos and then re-triggering it every time. So let's go ahead and create an audio input. My source is gonna be, again, my Blackmagic Design. On here it says microphone. You also have other options that'll show up. So if you have your system audio, or if you have, like I have a Focusrite audio interface plugged in, so I could choose that as well. But we're gonna go ahead and choose the ATEM Mini here. All right, there you can see my audio is coming in from my Mini because on my Mini I have my HDMI's audio turned on. And you can see it going, and I wanted to show off what these mode things are. If it says off, that means your audio is just not going to play. You're not going to be able to hear your audio going to a stream. If it says on, then it's always working, it's always on. The way that would work is if you turned on ProPresenter and you already had an audio input selected from a previous time, it's just going to automatically start working again. The other options you have are auto off. So if you have a video that's a foreground that you want to play, maybe someone's gonna talk into a mic on a stage and they're gonna be like, all right, you can play the video now, and they go to roll the video. Well, the thing that auto off does is it turns off your audio input while that video is playing. So that way, if the person's burping in the mic, that sound is not going over the video and being heard as well. Just the video is being heard when auto off is on. Auto on is cool because it allows you to select a specific video input for your audio to be on for. So if you have multiple video inputs and you only want the audio input, this specific audio input you're working on to show up when one of those video inputs is selected, you can choose which video input you want to work with there. The last thing I'm gonna show you here is routing. By default, it's gonna use 1 and 2, because that's what the program came with, was 1 and 2. But I don't want my audio input to go to 1 and 2 because 1 and 2 is what I'm gonna use for my in-person audience. I'm gonna use channel 3 and 4 for my online audience. So I'm gonna switch this to 3 and 4, turn off 1 and 2. So now I'm saying my audio input 1 is gonna go to channel 3 and 4 of ProPresenter. And then later on in our live stream settings, we'll choose to pull from channel 3 and 4 for our live stream. All right, that's set up. Now we don't have to touch it again. It's gonna be good to go. In fact, I'll actually go ahead and just click on. So now my audio is working. You can see it showing up in the meters here. All right. Next thing we're gonna talk about is screens. ProPresenter comes with one default screen on. So we're gonna go to screens and go to configure screens. You can see I got my projector here, 1920 by 1080. We're just gonna pretend that we're in an environment where we have one screen, just for the sake of this example. We're in a church, we have one projector up front. That's what we're using to send stuff. Well, now we wanna start live streaming too, so we need a second screen. This screen isn't gonna have a physical output. It's not gonna go to a TV or a projector. It's just gonna be virtualized here in the computer for our live stream to pull from. So what that means is anything we send to this new screen, that's gonna go to our live stream, right? So we'll go ahead and create a new audience screen, and we're gonna create a placeholder. I'm gonna choose 1920 by 1080 personally, just so I have a nice workspace to work off of. And then I'll go ahead and call that live stream. Let's call it live stream screen. There we go. Spell it all right? Yeah, I spelled it all right. Cool, so that's set up. That's the screen we're gonna use to pull everything from for our live stream. The next thing we want to do is set up our looks. So in looks, you can choose what layers you send to what screen. So we're going to go to screens, and we're going to go to edit looks. Now, I already have 2 that I built in here, and I'm going to show them off real quick. So if you look at lyrics, I have my video input turned off on my projector, because when I'm displaying lyrics, let's say we have a song we're doing for church, and we want our lyrics to show up on our main screen, but we don't want the live video input that we've just pulled into ProPresenter to go to our main screen. We only want that on our live stream. So in here's where you would choose, where do you want that to go? Well, I don't want the video input on my projector, but I do want it on my live stream. So I would make sure it's enabled on my live stream. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure on my live stream screen to turn off media, because media is my background and my foreground layer. I don't want those to layer on top of my video input and then the video input not be seen on our live stream. So that's off. Slide we want on because we want the text to come through. And then here on this presentation section, we're going to actually apply an alternative theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a lower third. I got a lower third theme here. So now any text that is sent to my live stream screen is going to have that lower third theme applied to it. I don't need to change anything on my projector's theme here because with the projector, I'm just gonna pull straight from the setup that I already have here inside of ProPresenter. So anything that I have here in the main editor, that's what's gonna be seen visually on my projector. I don't need an alternative theme for that. All right, so now that we have the lyrics set up, let me make sure this pre-show section is set up. With pre-show, the way that that's gonna work is I'm gonna have announcements going before our service or our show starts. So I want foreground images that are just constantly looping. And so I'm gonna actually make sure that that's showing up on both my live stream and my projector. I want that before we get to our song, before we actually start with our show. Let's say that the song is the beginning of the show. Well, pre-show, I want my announcements to show up on our live stream. So I'm gonna make sure that the media layer, if that's where I have my announcements running, if I have foreground images going, I'm gonna make sure that the media layer is enabled on both of them. And I guess I could even turn off the video input layer so that if we cleared something, the video input isn't showing through. All right, and then same things, you just wanna go through and check whatever you think is you're gonna show on whatever screen you want it to be showing on. So if you do have an announcements layer that you're trying to show stuff off of, you'd want that enabled, and then your props or messages, etc. Cool. So now that those are working, we'll actually go through and we're gonna add these audience looks to a specific document. So I want my pre-show look to trigger when I click this first welcome slide. So let's go to add action, audience look, and choose pre-show. Cool. Now, when we start the first song here, that first song is when we're also gonna start having a live video. So I might as well just add our live video there and our lyrics audience look. Let's go ahead and add the audience look first. Right click, add action, audience look, lyrics. Now our lyrics will show through on our projector, and on our live stream, just our live video will show through since that's what we set up on that action. Now down here in the video input playlist, I can go ahead and actually add in the input that we just created earlier. Now that the input is here, so currently I don't have the input triggered. I just have it sitting in ProPresenter ready to be triggered. And again, once you add in all those inputs and your preferences, you don't have to keep doing that in the future. You just set it and you go and it's good to go. But you want a way to be able to switch between them, right? So you can add in all of your video inputs down here. If you had more, you could add more. I can add more of the same one if I wanted to, but I don't need to. So I'm gonna delete that. So I have my one video input here. If I click it, it's triggered, it's live, but it's not showing because I don't have that specific look applied that would let it show. So now if I drag it to my Good Grace slide here, the first song we're doing, and if I click it, it's now gonna make it live on our live stream. There's my video coming through instead of that background. But if I go back to the projector, the background is playing through instead of my video input. So the reason is because I have the video input triggered there, as well as the audience look triggered there for my lyrics that we set up. Now, you don't have to apply an audience look to every slide. You just have to apply it where you want it to be able to change a look, to be able to change what's going to what screens. So you could apply it to the first song in your set if you have multiple sets. And then same with your video input. You only need to trigger it when you're gonna start it up. I could have put it on our announcements if I wanted to. That way it's just running the whole time and we don't have to worry about it. I just decided to add it to our first song there. So that's one option. So now that it's running and we've got it on both our live stream and our projector, if I go to my lyrics and actually queue them up, you'll see the lower thirds pop up. And that's because on our audience look, we had selected that alternative theme, right? Cool. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to live up here in the top right corner, go to capture settings, and then we're gonna choose our source. Well, our source is gonna be the screens that we created. We want our source to be the live stream screen. That way it's pulling from that screen that we're saying anything that's going to this screen, that's what's gonna go to our live stream. So I can go ahead and click live stream screen. That's the source we're pulling from for our live stream. Now our destination is gonna be RTMP or Resi or your disk. The differences between those are your disk is just a local recording, it's not going online. RTMP is a protocol for streaming that a lot of companies use for free, so Facebook and YouTube. Some other companies that have paid options for that as well. As long as they give you an address key, you can go ahead and put those in there and you can stream straight to those destinations. And then Resi is an option you can use if you want a higher quality stream that's gonna be resilient and reliable. And then you can go ahead and let's just choose RTMP for this example. If I was to go live on Facebook, they would give me an address and a key, I'd put them in here. And then Facebook currently only streams in 720p, but it can accept a higher quality stream. So like, I would personally just set this to 1080/30 for my stream, because I want to save a local copy as well. That way I have a high quality 1080p local copy here on my computer that I can edit afterwards, but Facebook is still streaming at 720 online, and that's okay, all right? And then the last thing we're gonna look at here is the audio routing. So here we have our 4 channels showing. ProPresenter channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can see our output is left and right. So again, earlier we said anything going to our live stream, we want it to pull from 3 and 4, so we're gonna choose 3 and 4 here. What that's saying is our live stream is gonna pull from ProPresenter channel 3 and 4. So we're gonna click that. Now anything going to channel 3 and 4 will go to our live stream and our local recording. So all you have to do is click Start Capture and you're gone, you're golden, you're good. But then once it's set up, you don't have to do it again. It's set and go, your volunteers just click through it. The only thing you may have to do is add your actions or your audience looks, or create new audience looks as you need them, and add them to slides. You know, if let's say you're going to a new week and you want to make sure your first song has a new audience look applied to it, well, you're just gonna have to add the action. That's not too difficult to do ahead of time. But then when your volunteers and your staff come in on your weekends or whenever you're having your event, it's really easy for them to just go through there and stream straight from there. One of the biggest benefits for doing it this way, instead of maybe going back into your ATEM Mini and then streaming from your ATEM Mini, is that with the ATEM Mini, it only has HDMI, so you can't do alpha key, which is a higher quality keying. You can only do chroma key and luma key. You're gonna get a much better flexibility and much better quality if you're streaming using ProPresenter than the ATEM for your content, for your lower thirds. Like you're not gonna have to key those out and have them look a little rough, pulling them in via chroma key and other stuff. So if you're layering them inside of ProPresenter, it gives you a much cleaner look and a lot more flexibility. So that's why we recommend doing that. I hope this video is helpful. Let us know, and we can't wait to keep helping you and helping you share the stories that change the world.